flight.
I can't use any of this for our intro though, because I cannot have beeps going on in the first 30 seconds of the YouTube intro.
But then again, how does the word dad come into it? Because then if we're talking about sheep, no, you don't hunt sheep. I suppose.
No, well,
yeah, maybe.
No,
No,
I don't know. Maybe those outback sheep. Maybe they're just a menace to society out there. like they're like kangaroos. No, those outback. That's right. All right, let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Season 3 of the Board Game Gateway podcast. My name is... 3, yeah, woo! I'm Neeber, I'm your host, and this is the entryway into the world of board gaming, tabletop gaming, and fun times. It is the Board Game Gateway podcast. We're back. I'm here with my two co-hosts, Mr. Damien.
Hello.
And Mr. Ralph.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, God, it's good to be back.
I know, it's pretty good.
It's been a long time. Like, it has been... So we said we were taking a break at the end of 2023. That was in the middle of December, and we said, yeah, we'll be back at the beginning of February. The beginning of February came and passed, and we still weren't back. We all decided, yeah, we need an extra month, I think.
I feel like we're like radio announcers where we have like 3 months off in a year, you know?
Yeah.
It did feel a bit like that. But look, it was really good because we had a chance to go through the Christmas holiday period. We had a chance to run our own game day, and we had a chance to play a lot of games and have some fun experiences over those times. And we will be talking about all of those things in this episode. We'll be having a chat about some of the games and experiences that we had over Christmas and the holiday period. We'll be talking about B3GD, our inaugural board game day, and how that one went down. We were really excited to share that with you. We also may have a chat about a game that just made it to the shores off the back of the Kickstarter boat called Blood Rose Wars.
Black Rose Wars.
Blood Rose Wars.
Wars.
It was BWR. Sorry. Well, that's a different one entirely, apparently. And then to end it, we will give you a rundown of some of the content that we've actually been planning and actually recording in the month of February. So even though we didn't post anything, we have actually been doing a bit of content creation, which we were excited to talk about. But we'll get to that at the end of this podcast, so stick around for that. But boys, welcome back. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, God.
I know.
Christmas was so long ago, and yet it was only 2.5 months ago. That is just how it felt. What did we get up to? Were there any fun games you got to play? Anything that stands out? I did get a game of Twilight Imperium to the table. We got a full 6-player game going.
Damien and I left the state actually while you did that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
We were so disgusted.
Absolutely, because ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at the new reigning Galactic Emperor. Oh, I did win that Twilight Imperium game.
It's because we went there.
Actually, do you want to dive into why you won that game?
Well, okay, so not to start the podcast on such a sour note, but I will say, one, it was the best comeback I've ever had. So my brother Nick screamed... Well, look, to give the viewers a listen, after 5 hours of gaming, my brother Nick was on 7 points, and I was on 3 points, which in the game of Twilight Imperium, which is a race to 10, is a massive gap. Like, you can really only ever score 3, maybe 4 points in a turn if you're lucky, right? It's really secret objective, public objective, and an
Imperial play.
And an Imperial play, right? You can it's hard to do. And so my brother Nick... God love my brother Nick, right? Because the few times that we've played this game in the previous, he's never really gotten to the front. In fact, he's always played the game without trying to score points. So this was the first game where I kept bugging him every single time, going, Nick, you need to score points. You need to score points. Make sure you need to score points. And I kept on him, and he did. Except he got to the front and had nothing more to score as everyone else kept clawing their way back into it. Now, the big controversy of this game came down to, at the end, the one thing about Twilight Imperium, which at the time, look, I was a bit butthurt on what happened, specifically because I had such 4 hours of crawling my way back into a position that I could have a win play, as I was playing the not the Winu. I was playing the guys who
the douchebags of the universe.
Yeah, the douchebags of the universe. They're the guys who think they are the rightful heirs to the throne. So basically, we have to try and get to Megator Rex and
they're a fun race.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah.
I cannot remember what they're called.
The Winu.
Yeah, it's not the. Is it the
Winu?
Winu?
It's the
Winu.
Winu.
No, sorry.
They could just walk into Megator Rex and claim it for free.
Yeah, exactly. But I won the game without once ever going to Megator Rex, right? But
That's
the controversy of the game came from at the end of the game where my brother essentially realized he couldn't win, so went Kingmaker, and I can't remember the specifics of what happened, but it was essentially, he was going to trade his support for the throne to someone else.
Which just gives someone a point.
And would have made them win, right?
Yeah.
So, the heated words were exchanged. And we did actually speak to each other, plainly enough, after this. So we're still on very good terms. But we did have to take a couple of extra days to kind of have a debrief and just kind of go like, look, we were both... I was in the wrong for how I acted.
Yeah, you cancelled the family court afterwards.
Yeah. It was all right. Like, neither of us were idiotic to each other, but it was one of those moments of that, he felt like I guilted him into not playing a card, which I kind of did, but didn't do it on purpose. But then he should have played the card because he was within his right to play the card. And it was just like, it's just one of those things. Love the game. It took us...
Well, look, it's not space risk, it is space politics.
It is. It's space diplomacy. That's what it is.
Yeah, so politics is 90% of that game.
So basically you strong-armed your brother into crapping the bed.
I weak-armed my brother into crapping the bed, and I think that's what he said to me. He goes, had you actually, at the end of the game, turned around and went, you're an idiot, right? He said, I would have been 100% on board because you would have outplayed me, but you didn't, and that's what made it hurt. And I went, I should have done that. I should have just been, just gone with my manipulative side.
Well, look, it was definitely an impressive win from what I heard, because you didn't just win with the one support for the throne, you actually had two
I did get two supports for the thrones at the end
So if you can convince 2 out of the 5 other players to give you 2 points, that is huge.
I was in 5th out of 6 players for a good 4 hours of that game.
That is huge.
I'm calling shenanigans there. Something's wrong there.
100% big shenanigans. No one should have trusted me, and somehow I pulled the win out. But anyway, that was one of the big games that we played whilst I was on holidays. What about you, gentlemen? That's what an epic way to start this podcast. What did you?
Yeah,
Damien?
I've played a bunch of games over sort of holidays and recently. I've basically made a commitment to play every single game in my collection.
This year, just once this year?
At least once.
Woo!
Every single game has to be played once. Currently 10% of the way through my collection. Actually, sorry, tell a lie, 16% of the way through my collection.
If you don't
have you sold 90% of it or something?
No, my collection's actually increased in size, which is maddening.
Is there a penalty for not playing a game by the end of 2024?
Yeah, he has to sell every game he doesn't play.
No.
I was going to say, that's a big up.
No.
That is good.
No,
he can't do it. He can't. But at least you've got a goal. That's good. I like.
Yeah, I do have a goal, so I'm tempted to do that, and I've been pretty good about it too. Like, I've even sold some games that just came in. So, for instance, ISS Vanguard came in for me during the break. I opened it, set it up to play, and then never played it and sold it because it's just it'll never make it. Had a number of rounds of Arkham, which has been great. Got a bunch of content last year, so I was really happy with that.
We'll have to play more of that.
Yeah. So
I will play it for the first time this year. It will be happening.
It will happen.
It will happen.
Been playing a bunch of games with my kids. So Paku has hit the table a bunch.
Great game.
That's Not a Hat has been really popular among
also a great game.
the MacArthur Board Gamers group. Champions of Midgard, so an older worker placement game. Introduced that to my son. That's been a huge hit. That game is just you play Viking clans sort of vying for supremacy, but you're doing it via worker placement spots. And you're basically, the goal is to put workers out to then get dice. These dice represent different types of Vikings, and then you go raiding and beating monsters and stuff. And so it just comes down to dice rolls. And you're doing all this for VP at the end.
Protecting your village, protecting the clan from monsters.
Things like that. Yeah, there's a great little rub in the game where if you don't go fight the troll, or if someone doesn't go fight the troll, blame tokens get handed out and they're worth negative points at the end of the game. So
I've got a few of those in life.
Yeah. Were you playing with the Valhalla expansion?
Yes. So the Valhalla expansion just adds a little bit extra where when your Vikings die, you get these little chits that represent these dead Vikings that you then can trade in for Valkyries. And they give you additional abilities or points or bonuses.
The glory of battle.
Yeah, look, it's super simple, but it's a ton of fun. Been playing a lot of older games as well. So Feast for Odin, Agricola. Been playing that a fair bit.
I really want to learn Agricola. It's a game that has always been on my hit list, but I never gave it a go.
It's the daddy of worker placements,
isn't
it?
Well, actually, no, Bus is.
Well, that is true.
Well, I learned and played one round of Bus. And then time froze, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. No, look, I've just been playing a bunch of those games, but So, but I think some of the highlights with gaming had to have been CanCon. That was definitely one of them. So Ralph and I got to go down to CanCon and we played a bunch of games there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
For the listeners who are not familiar with CanCon,
So
please do explain.
CanCon is these days the largest board gaming conference in Australia. So it's like, and I'm gonna
say it's a conference. Though.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It is an expo.
It's an expo. Yeah, it's like
it's biggest, like PAX Unplugged for our American viewers. It almost is like
they have shows there.
It's not though because it's dedicated to tabletop gaming, and so that means board gaming, war gaming,
historical war gaming,
miniature gaming, that sort of stuff.
TCGs, things like that. And they'll have competitions for...
lots of competitions.
For everything except for board games. But where the expo comes into it is it'll have... There'll be stalls there. There'll be demos by designers. So, for instance, Martin Wallace was there demoing his new game. A bunch of distributors were there demoing new games coming out. So, I know Ralph got to play...
Mercurial,
that's right.
There was also just people who had games in development. Looking for a publisher and looking for playtesters.
Yeah.
They were there too.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was just a good opportunity to just play some games that I wouldn't normally get to play because they're not in my collection.
It is a 3-day con, so it starts on a Friday, ends on a Sunday.
Yes, that's right.
It's in Canberra, which is about 2.5 hours from where we live. So you two carpooled it down.
Yep.
Friday morning.
Oh, we drove the car.
We drove the car.
Sorry,
If we drove it into a pool, then we wouldn't get to.
It's one of those magical pools where you come out the other side and you just happen to be in Canberra at that point. Yeah.
Well, do you have one?
No more smoking before podcast.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
But no, look, it was fun. The trip was. It was quick. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
How quick
we could have just recorded a podcast while we drove.
We could have we were just chatting and we could have just recorded it. But some of the games I played there, so I played Goa, super old dusty Euro where you
yellow box.
It's orange. My one's gone yellow because it's so old. Where you're bidding for access to goods on a board. It's supposed to represent sort of spice trade in the Goa region, India. It's 100% painted on. You don't get any of that in there, but it's a good game. Tigris and Euphrates, got to teach new people that. Got to teach Ralph how to play that.
Yes, you got to play it for the first time.
I did. I got pretty close to winning, actually. I really enjoyed it. It was just all about mitigating your worst coloured cubes, and I was good at that. I did try it once, turn by turn online since, but because I never looked in the chat history to see what was going on, it lost something for me. But to me,
it's much better in person.
Real time or in person. That game was awesome.
Damien and I have played quite a few games online asynchronously, which has been okay, but it's still much better.
I'm not a big asynchronous
much better
player,
getting it in person.
Absolutely.
That was a lot of fun because it was a very casual game and I was shooting the shit while playing. It was really good.
What else did we play? We also played Tyrants of the Underdark.
We did.
Which is for anyone listening, it's very Clank-esque in the sense that every round you draw 5 cards and you play those 5 cards to either purchase more cards from the card market or instead of moving as you do with Clank, you only have the fighting element. But the fighting element is a little different in that you put troops out and your goal is to put troops out to basically create a line which will then go from room to room. And it's an area control game.
It's like route building area control with the cards. Yeah,
so it's kind of... I'll be honest with you, it's actually closer to a lot of train games I've played than anything else.
Yeah, it felt like Hansa Teutonica a little bit in a way, but with the deck building element too.
It's a good game. I think I grabbed it for like $30 last year and I don't regret it.
It was a good pickup.
But and then just a lot of CanCon for me is catching up with people that I don't normally get to see. I've got friends in the hobby in Victoria and in Canberra and
New Zealand as well.
And New Zealand. And it was great to catch up with them. But it was also great to hit up all the stalls because every year you go to CanCon and say, I'm not spending any money this year.
And you both said that when you left.
Yeah.
And you both spent in at least 3 digits.
3 digits, yeah.
At least 3 digits for both of you.
It stayed at 3 digits.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to see.
I got a new board game bag, though.
Oh, me too.
Yay!
Yeah.
Boo, I haven't got one yet. I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
Ralph, what about you, though, mate? I mean, Damien has given us a rundown of CanCon. I mean, you were there as well, but what were some of the highlights? But also your Christmas... you had a lot of family over and had a lot of... a lot of, from what I saw.
Yeah, we just used the opportunity over the break to catch up with friends. So we played a lot of like simple games at home. Not simple games, but like quick games.
Yeah.
Quick games at home. So I got your copy of Downforce to the table again.
Fantastic.
That's always a classic. But yeah, like for me, I suppose my highlight of the break was the CanCon experience, mainly because I've never been before. Been meaning to go for a long time. I felt like I've made my board game pilgrimage now.
I'll be doing it next year. It's already the Australia Day, so it's always held here in Australia on the Australia Day long weekend. Yeah. And so you can always pencil it in. And next year I will be doing. I will be making my pilgrimage as well. So.
I was surprised just at the sheer size of it. The amount of people, like that, they're massive warehouses, and there was like 4 of them. It was huge.
The tabletop gaming is no joke. That was 2 warehouses.
Yeah, and you see like the odd YouTube celebrity, like the Australian, New Zealand celebrity, just playing a game near you, and you're like, oh wow, I've watched your videos.
I've had a friend, a work colleague of mine, who has gone every year for the past 15 years or however long it's been going, and because he's a historical wargamer, so he was telling me about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds great. So whenever people start telling me, I'm like, I've known about it for so long, I need to go. So
I walked through that warehouse where they were playing those historical war games, and there's a dogfighting aeroplane war game, and like they have these planes on these massive stilts, so it looks like they're in the air while they're moving it around, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like, it's insane.
Another thing, and I don't know if you got to go to it, but they also have a painting tournament in there as well, so a miniature painting tournament called the Crimson Brush.
Right.
And so painters will submit their minis that they have painted.
Right.
And this year I know they had different sort of classes to try and sort of even out the competition, if you will. But it's just wild when you see some of the pieces of work that people have done, and they've spent over 1,000 hours on it, and you're just looking at it, and it's just wild, the quality.
Yeah, that would have been really cool to see.
Yeah, it was very, very
cool. But yeah, just the sheer size of it, and the shopping was just insane. There's a huge secondhand market there. The main store that was there, they had quite a few. I think they were overwhelmed with the rush of people on the first day. Yeah. And there was quite a few pricing errors, so there was quite a few bargains up for grabs. I think the best one, Damien, what was the best one we heard of that day?
Someone got a copy of Heat for $10 Australian.
Gee, so obviously a 0 wasn't placed on the.
We don't know.
And that game has got a couple of Game of the Year awards, and it's still one of the hottest games to buy right now. It is available, but it's like $110. But someone got it for $10. Everyone we told was picking up a copy of Heat and just scanning it at every terminal they could.
Imagine.
But I'm really happy. Like, I got some good bargains in there. I did not expect to spend the amount of money or bring home the amount of games I did. But definitely quite a unique experience. So even the second-hand market, it was ran really well there. So
that's great. Well, speaking of second-hand markets as well, we did also Damien and myself, after Damien swore he wouldn't buy any more games after CanCon, then the Sydney no-ship auction went on Board Game Geek, and this is a once every 6 to 9 months. The group from West Ticket to Ride, which is they're the West Ride gamers here in Sydney. They hold the Board Game Geeks secondhand no ship auction. So the idea is that essentially you can put up any games that you want online on this list, and then you have to go to the West Ride Hotel. And you go there on the trade night, and you literally just trade your games.
So
with
if
people.
you go to the Ticket to Ride hotel on a different day, it's a very different experience.
Exactly right. There's a lot of trains in there. No one's given way.
Oh no. Look, Ralph's talking about the Thursday night.
Oh yeah. That's even worse. No, so we did that, and that was where I decided that my collection would get its first real. Like not only with that, I had started selling a few games on Facebook Marketplace to start getting some of my games. So I've actually sold now a total of about 15 to 20 games in the past 3 months. Just trying to. You know what? We had a discussion last year about the idea of I'm not really a collector, so why am I keeping games in here for some? It's like, and you know what? If I want them again, I can buy them again. And I think that was a really poignant discussion to actually start looking at my collection and go, what do I actually want to keep here? And my wife, Georgie, the first time that I sold a game, she's like, but I love that game. And I went, yeah, but when was the last time that we played it? It's like 3 years ago. I'm like, we're not going to play it.
Yeah, I've had the same conversations at home.
we should absolutely have a proper discussion about that in a future episode, I think, about the value of just moving games on.
Yeah. Well, and so
it's quite a games library.
Well, the great thing about this auction as well, so I end up selling 7 games, and I end up buying 7 games. And I also traded 2 games for 2 other games. They do prefer if you can organise trade. So you look through the whole list. We had 2,200 board games up for auction/trade in this list from all these people across Sydney. So I end up trading 2 games. Like, for example, I end up trading Captain Sonar for Kitchen Rush and the expansion, which I'm really looking forward to playing. I traded my copy of Champions of Midgard for Root. So I'm looking forward to actually getting that and playing that at the table. So those are just 2 examples of the trades. But my big boy, it's up here. I got Escape Plan. I saw it on the list, and both Damien and I both started bidding on it.
Oh, really?
And then he realised, oh, you're bidding on this one? Yeah. I was like, I'll bow out of this one.
I've got enough Lacerda games. So no, you have this one.
So I got my first Lacerda game up there, which I'm really...
I don't have a Lacerda game.
Well, that's not true. I have Bot Factory. But
I don't have that anymore.
I have Bot Factory, but my first quote unquote heavy Lacerda game is up there, so I'm really keen to play it again. That actually has a very sentimental place in my heart, because that was the first game I ever played at the Board Game Barbecue's first ever meetup when we went there. And not only that, the girl who was teaching it, she gave up her spot just to let me sit in and play, because I seemed pretty interested in it. So look, great community all around. Now I've got my own copy, and I'm looking forward to playing it on the table. Very nice. Speaking of the Board Game Barbecue/game days, one of the main things that happened the week before CanCon, and we had been talking about it all in our previous couple of podcasts, is we held our very own Board Game Day B3GD. And safe to say, it surpassed our expectations in terms of turnout, but it was like oh my God, it was a success, boys. I mean, congratulations to us. I agree, please.
Very nice.
Absolutely.
So to give you all at home, so we had been advertising B3GD, which is the Board Game Gateway's Game Day, which was our 14-hour game day held here in our local area. And we needed to we had a maximum limit of 100 people coming to that we could have selling tickets coming to the...
I will say 100 people, and we worked it out, it'd be tight. But it would be possible.
It would be possible, but we could have had 100 people in that room. But to also kind of break even on the event, just to kind of cover our butts, we needed to get about 65 people there, right? So we were thinking, okay, 65 people, surely we can get 65 people. 2 weeks out, we had sold a total of 30 tickets, right? And we legitimately had the discussion of, are we going to commit to this? This is our last chance. Do we go for it? And we decided, you know what? No, we're going to do it. We really want to hold this game day. And boy, oh boy, did the board gaming community in our area literally come out in that last 2 week drive.
It wasn't just in our area. As people were coming in, we had people up from Wollongong,
which is 45 minutes away.
Castle Hill as well.
Castle Hill,
which is another 45 minutes in the opposite direction.
Sutherland Shire. So there were a couple from Sutherland Shire who came up and spoke to me, and they openly said that there's nothing like this out their way.
Yeah.
And I mean, geographically, I appreciate not all of our listeners may know like where we are compared to the Sutherland Shire area. By road, it takes almost an hour to get to Sutherland Shire, even though it is quite close. It's just geographically how Sydney is set up. And yet people were more than happy to make the hour trip in the morning to come and play games. And they were saying, we were more than happy to do it. There's nothing like this out our way. And that was... fantastic. It was just look, they keep going otherwise.
Yeah, so
I'm going to talk all episode.
We were literally monitoring those ticket sales after that meeting, because we were like, okay, let's monitor, and we had our big push, and we then realized in classic event, ticket sailing sort of thing, we're like, okay, we hit 35. Okay, cool. Oh, sweet, we hit 40. The next day, we're on 43. The next day, we're on 46. And then all of a sudden, within about a week to go, it went from 46, and then it slammed into 70, right? It went from 45-ish and went into 70, 75 in one day, which we were like, oh my God, we've just hit our point. That's what we wanted. But then we were like, oh my God, we actually only have 25 tickets to sell, and we've still got 8 days to go. And we sold out the night before.
Yeah.
To the point where we were like, guys, we don't have any more tickets. And the room that we had booked, we're like, it's going to be tight with 100 people, but we have to cap it. So then the day of so we're all congratulating each other, patting ourselves on the back, feeling mighty good about this. And we get to the day and we've all set up the room and we've got our game library, which was a big hit, by the way. That was actually one of the biggest positives I think a lot of people said was like, oh, we have a library of games we can just check in
we
and
took
check
over
out.
100 of our games there. For
About 30 from each of us.
Yeah,
and we had
about
that. And that was actually a really big positive that a lot of people loved, that you could just check in and check out a game to go and play, which they really enjoyed.
And if they looked at the library and didn't know what they were looking at, they were like, what do you recommend? And then we'll just sell them, play this game, play that game.
Yeah, just quickly on that. We didn't do anything terribly special, but
No.
I think Ralph, you were the one who came up with the idea where we just said, hey, how about we just rank these from super lightweight, party style games all the way up to slightly heavier fare. We didn't have any terribly heavy games.
The heaviest one I think I saw was like Scythe or something like that.
Yeah,
Scythe
I think so.
was set up on the table.
Yeah, and it did go out, which was amazing. But just having that kind of system and just being able to quickly guide people.
Yeah, definitely.
And it just became people saying, hey, I like the look of this box, which is how it should be with games, by the way. Like the box should just be what draws you in and then just give it a go. And they go, like, can you guys help us with this game? Either one of us would teach it or would find someone to teach it. And it just, the system worked brilliant.
It was a big success.
Really well.
It was huge. So we opened up the doors and we had our first patrons coming on through the door, and we were super happy. We had at the start, we actually had quite a lot of our family and friends were the first ones through the door, which was a few young kids, which was great, and a few people. But then we had about 30 people. And then we hit our first snag of the day, which was we had people who thought they could buy tickets at the door. And we had been saying, it is a prepaid event. You've got to pay
until sold out.
Until sold out, you've got to pay beforehand. And then we made the snap call of, well, do we just sell some tickets? And we went, all right, let's do it. And so we did. And we did it again and again. And we had sold then 120 tickets. An extra 20 people came through the doors within the first 3 hours that we weren't expecting. And it got 2 hours in, and we realized we had 70 patrons in the game day, and we only had 3 tables remaining. And we were like, oh no, we've only got 3 tables worth of gaming remaining, and we've still got 30, 40 people still to walk through the door that we were expecting. So we're like, now we had pre-planned to get our second room. And thankfully, no one had booked that room, and the marketing team at the venue we were using, we got a hold of them, and they opened up the room, and we said, we need it. And they said, can you give it to us? And they said, we'll have to charge you. And we went, please do. We need this room. And so we did. So we opened up the room and basically got half again, the space again. And then we ended up selling an extra few tickets. So we capped ourselves at 100. We ended up having 127 people walk through the door, which was massive for a first-time group, running this kind of event. I mean, this just shows you how good the board gaming community is, Ralph. I mean, we've been to board game barbecue events and things like that, which is another group here in Sydney. But for them to come to us shows that people are really excited to play a lot of games with the community and things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So we did that, and we had I've got so many good memories of that day, which was a long day. So we ended up finishing at 11 p.m. because that's what time the club kicked us out of the room. That was the time until our booking for. But we had, I think, about 35 people stay from open till close, I think, thereabouts.
Yeah.
We had the Blood on the Clock Tower games kick off at about 6 o'clock at night, which was really well received from a lot of the people, because there was a lot of people who were just playing board games. And then actually there was a lot of people who were from the Blood on the Clock Tower communities around Sydney who rocked up to play games through most of the day as well, which was interesting.
Yeah, they played a lot of board games as well. Betrayal on the House on the Hill was a big hit that day with them. But yeah, with Clock Tower, we ran 2 games most of the evening. It was really cool because there was a lot of people that have always wanted to play the game but never have. So it was really cool to invite them in along to it. And I've since held a couple of Clock Tower events outside of that, and they've come back. Which is really amazing. It's sort of a game that hooks people in, and it was great to share that with so many new people that day as well. So that was really pretty awesome. I felt like our game library was really solid, just that system of how we rank the games and people coming to look and checking out a game, and even though we're like, oh, I've only got 10 minutes, what do you recommend for 10 minutes? And I'm like, yeah, here, take this, you already know how to play it, go for it. But what I found half the time was we'll check a game back in, but we'll just plonk it anywhere.
Yeah.
And then later someone will come around asking for that game, and we're like, have you seen that game? I don't know where it is. It says it's here. Where is that game? So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, look, yeah. I think the one thing I absolutely adore about our community is just, the amount of respect they have for everything. The day, the people, the games.
All of our games came back. We didn't lose a single one.
No, but that's like the least of it. It's just how genuinely happy the room was.
Yeah.
Like, no one was upset, or everyone was having a really, really good time. And it was great. The vibe in there, it was like, I was buzzing all day.
Yeah,
same was I. Like, we were, trying to do our best to keep the community engaged. So trying to get people, if you didn't have anyone to play with, we'd put the call out. And we had quite a few times where, like, Games of Decrypto got new people in just because, well, my dad was probably one of the biggest. He was like, I want to play this. All right, let's call for some people to see if they can come play with you.
I think Matt's son, Robbie, grabbed Space and wanted to spin up a game. We did an announcement. People just flocked over.
Exactly
really
right.
quickly.
And speaking of people flocking over, one of the biggest surprises that we found about the demographic of people who end up coming, we knew that we would have our usual suspects from some of the board gaming groups around the place, which we did, and they rocked up, and we really thank them for the support. But the surprise was we ended up having a lot more families rock up than we thought we would. We hoped we would, but we actually had more than we thought we would. And it turns out that our little board game day made it into a lot of the homeschooling groups, which we were really surprised. And one of the first, one of the first big ticket sales that we had was we had a mum named Michelle. She came in and said, look, I've got 5 kids. They're all like from 12 to 15. We have a game called Small World, and I have no idea how to play it. And she goes, does anyone here know how to play it? And I said, you know what? I don't know how to play it, but I'm sure I could find out how to play it. She goes, I want them to come and have a day here as well, but if we could, by the end of the day, learn how to play Small World, I would love it, because we bought it and we can't really.
That was like World of Warcraft Small World.
Yeah, it was the World of Warcraft variation, right? Because they all love Warcraft, right? Anyway, so absolutely. So they bought 5. She bought 5 tickets for her kids, and they were there, no doubt, from about 10:30 through all the way till about 3:30. They did not leave.
No, it was later.
Yeah, they came later in the day.
Yeah, something like that, right? But then, what ended up happening was we never taught them Small World, because they just kept finding new games to play. The kids, they just kept playing new, and like, let's play this. So at one point, we had a few of our patrons go, there's kids out the front of the event playing throw burrito and like launching burritos at each other. And we were like, cool. Like, so we went out there and like, they're just loving it. And those kind of things that to me was one of my biggest, that made me feel the most prideful in our event, was that the mum probably came there to get her kids, well, one in the holidays, we hope to get them out of the house, but she really did want to learn this game. And then I probably did the worst thing for her, which was get her kids excited about more games that she'd probably have to buy.
Work a beast.
But at the end of the day, they loved it, and she could not thank us enough for giving her kids this, this platform, this event that they could come to and spend most of the day.
The thing that I loved was at the end when, because mum and I'm assuming was dad there later in the evening to pick up the kids. Just how genuinely disappointed the kids were
to leave.
Yeah, they did not want to go, and I love that. Like, honestly, it's all good and well to set up a game day for us board gamers. We're easy to please. You give us a decent board game.
Just give me a table and a new game. We're like sorted. Let's go. I don't care.
And look, we've all got kids, and we all know how fickle kids can be, especially with their interests. Like, kids can either love something or get bored with it straight away. These kids were entertained all day. They were amazing, and I absolutely just loved seeing their reaction of, oh, we have to go home now, don't we? And it's like, that has to be just one of the best things ever. It has to be like, ignore ticket sales, ignore all that. Just the response from kids who, I don't know what they were expecting when they walked in the doors on the day, but I want to believe that that they would love to come back. just to have that same experience.
Michelle,
again.
the mum, did tell me that she was like, "When's the next one?"
Yeah,
and I said, "This is we didn't know if we were gonna do another one because we didn't know how this first one was gonna go."
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, you guys need to do another one."
Yeah.
Like they have a great time. So that was this. But yeah, no, I agree with you as well. I think that was.
Yeah, I had quite a few special moments that day. Taught like a young Portuguese dad with his kid.
Yeah.
Basically, I played a few games with them. Taught them That's Not a Hat as well, and just like Just One and things like that, and like just the patience this dad had with his kids to teach him the games, and I just sat there playing with them. I actually just learned a lot of him as well, which is really awesome. Yeah. Taught a new group Catan. That was tough.
Wow.
They really wanted to learn
Was
Catan.
that the girls?
Yeah, they really wanted to learn it. I constantly came around and checked in with them and things like that. And occasionally they'll have an epiphany, like, "Oh, that's what the robber does," and like things like that. And just it took them like 3-4 hours. I don't think they enjoyed it.
It was a 2. That group, that was one of my special moments because I was the same thing. I noticed them playing Catan and. Look, I respect Catan. I'm not a big fan of it anymore, and
Well, there's a member of our community that's into competitive Catan. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what that's like.
That would be very interesting. But anyway, I saw these girls. They had been playing Catan for about 2.5 hours, and they finished, and they brought it back up. And then one of them came up to the table and was like, "Oh, we just need something light, something really easy." And I said, "Have you played cockroach poker before?" She goes, "What's that?" I go, "Do you want to lie to your friends?" And she goes, "Yes." And I went, "Fantastic. I'm coming over and I'm going to teach you this game." So
Perfect.
I taught them cockroach poker. They picked it up and I played a full round with them. And the laughter that rang out, I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted.
Perfect.
One of their friends had
that.
actually left to go either to the bathroom or to get a drink. And we had finished the first full game by the time she got back. And they were so excited to teach her this other new game that they just played that they could play in less than 15 minutes, which was great. For me, other than that, my son, Teddy, he really loved Crocodile. He was obsessed by that. He was just wanted to flip. His dad can't play Crocodile again. And when we left, I'm like, "Buddy's not here. It's at Damiens and Ralph's house." Oh, so he was a bit upset about that. But then one of my favorite moments was so we had been, working really all day, and it finally got to about 7:00 at night that we said, right, at 7:00 after all of our Blood on the Clock Tower patrons had come in. No more, that's it, no more entries, you can come and go. We kind of knew everyone, which is great. And we had a chance to finally sit down and play a game called Paku Paku, which we are not going to go into full depth, but this is our gateway game of the week. We said we weren't going to do an official one, but like...
We'll do it later. We're
going to talk about, but this game, this is going to be... Look, I'm giving you a precursor. Paku Paku is going to be our gateway game in the next episode, right? But this game had myself, Ralph, Damien, and Blake. We were in tears of laughter. We'd been...
I was having a little panic attack.
Oh, my God. So that was great. We got to do that. I got to play Lancaster. James, he taught us Lancaster.
I got to laugh at you the entire time.
Oh, my God. You just came... Yeah, you were just coming around and just, inspecting what's going on and going, "Oh, I don't know if I would have done that." But then just left the comment.
That's the best thing to say to someone.
Then he'd walk away, right? He'd just leave it.
That's the best.
What I do is that I could see what was behind Nee's screen, and then I walk around behind James's screen. I went, "Okay." And I said, "Doing that?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Because you think he's got that?" He goes, "Yeah." And then we'll go back over to Nee's. I would have done that.
And I was like, "Shut up, Damien." Because look, I love James. I rarely ever beat James at anything heavy. He is such a good gamer. But that's also why I like playing against him, because he's quite a good challenge.
Play some heavy games with him for
sure.
Yeah,
he's really good, right? But that was also... That was one of those games where I will be talking about that in another podcast episode, because that was great fun
Lancaster's
too.
a good game.
But the whole day itself, look, we'll wrap this up.
I do want to say a highlight for me as well.
Please do, please. Before we...
I ran a Clock Tower game called Bad Moon Rising, and it was a really great game. And
my brother played in that one, I think. Was that
no, he played Trouble Brewing. He didn't play Bad Moon Rising. This one, it finished the night. It went for an hour, and the final day of the game, I usually like to wrap it up quickly, or when conversation starts dying. It just didn't. I really had to butt in to try, and we had to get out of that room, right? So the game wrapped up. So-and-so's the demon. Everyone's like, "Oh no," and then they start to unpack the game a little bit. We're loading our games back in our car 40 minutes later.
Yep.
I'm coming back into the club maybe an hour later as well. I still see 4 or 5 people standing in the car park talking about the game an hour later. And I was just like, wow, that had an impact. That was really cool.
I actually think it's also had an impact on our local gaming group as well. So we've then started, this year with the MacArthur Board Gamers that we've talked about, our local gaming group that we actually help run. We've actually made a couple of real critical things that we've done. We've increased the organizational group. We've actually invited like 3 or 4 people into that to help us actually run the events, because we realized us 3 just couldn't always be there.
But since our board game event, like the B3GD, we have people turning up to, the monthly local meetups and ask us, where's the game library?
Absolutely. And so it's no longer even monthly now. We've upped it to fortnightly now, which has been great. So we've actually had a consistent 25 plus people every fortnight rocking up, which has been great. And one of the biggest questions that we've been getting about it is, so we finished up that game day. We were all emotionally spent, and then some. The first question we literally got asked when we went to the next game event, which was like literally 2 weeks later, was, "Yeah, mate, that was so good. When's the next one?" And all 3 of us looked at each other and went, "We haven't planned the next one." And they're like, "Why not? Like, when are you gonna do, like, surely you'll do like one in like a quarter." And we went, "Oh God, no! Like, we're not at that point yet." But the answer to that question is, we are going to be doing a second one. Now, we haven't locked in a date yet. So if you attended B3GD or you missed out or you've listened to this going, "I'd really like to rock up to it," we will be doing another one in this year. It is not going to be until the second half of the year, probably late Q3, early Q4 is what we're kind of aiming for. We don't have an official date, but when we do, we will put it back out there. We had such a blast. The community response was so good. We were really keen to run it again.
And we got some great feedback on the day as well.
We did,
even after the day, about the day. And like things I would definitely take on board. So the next one's just going to get better.
Yeah, so it's worth saying that once we have a date locked in, if you did attend, you will receive an email from us.
Yep.
If you weren't lucky enough to attend,
you'll also receive an email from us.
You may receive an email. Who knows? Mass marketing campaigns. They're only semi-dodgy. No, but look, stay peeled to our socials. We'll definitely be posting there. But I'm gonna quickly jump in. I'm gonna say one more thing.
Please, I don't want to.
Were you just talking about, like, you were talking and you go, "I'm gonna jump in"?
No. I was gonna.
No, because he knows I'm trying to get to the final bit of our episode before we get on.
Hand it back to me. But the one thing that I want to say is, one of my highlights of the day. I mean, absolutely all the guests that we had there were amazing, and they were by far the stars. But there were a bunch of people who helped us in the background, who just kind of stepped up. So Liz, Avery, Stu, Josh, James, Jason, and I apologize if I've forgotten anyone else who was helping us out. We're talking about people who they did the things that we just didn't get time to do while we were running around. They would just say, "Hey, we're teaching this game now." They would just pulling in people they had never met before into their games, happily jumping in, running games themselves.
We had a lot of people bring their own games. Teach that to other people.
Yeah. So look, if I missed your name, I'm really sorry, but we are super appreciative of everyone who jumped in, gave us a hand. Even if you just went up to a complete stranger and said, "Hey, you look lost. Jump into the game. We're about to teach it." That was a massive help on the day, because the most important thing to us was making sure that this community spirit stayed alive. And that was very, very real on the game day.
We had the game library where we had the check-in, check-out system. We had a lot of games there, a lot of big games, a lot of small games. But the game that was checked out the most over the course of the entire day was a game called Hues and Clues.
Hues and Coos.
Not
clues, it's coos. Hues and Coos.
Hues and Coos. Do we want to give a quick pitch about this game to see why it was so special about it on the day?
I can give you the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
All right, how well do you know your colours?
I'm colorblind.
You're colorblind?
Yeah.
Great, this is going to be even better for you. All right, do you think that you could explain what that colour is in one word?
What, the whole board?
No, I'm gonna.
Oh, okay. Like. Oh, really? Is that what you have to do?
That's all it is. Basically,
no. Because the whole board is like a whole gradient.
It's like color gradient.
It's like a PowerPoint from the 90s.
Exactly. So the way the game works is literally one person is the clue giver and everyone else is the guesser. And all it is you get given a coordinate card that has 4 coordinates on there and you pick one of them, right? So it may say like G5, right? Which will be a shade of red. Now you have to give a 1-word clue to get people to guess that particular shade of red.
Oh no.
So it could just be sunrise. Right, but what color is a sunrise?
At what point? Yeah,
exactly right. So then everyone has these little cones that they put down on the board, and then you are now allowed to give a second clue, and that second clue can be 2 words. Then everyone puts down their cones again, and then you have a little 3x3 ring that you then sit over the center of your color. If someone guesses it, they get 3 points. If someone was in the inner, on the inner side of that 3x3, they get 2 points. Yeah. And if you're on the outside of that ring, you get 1 point.
Wow.
You go around so everyone has 2 goes. You go around so everyone has 2 goes, and then the person with the most amount of points at the end. So if anyone guesses it correctly, you get points as well. So you want people inside of the ring because that gets you points. But this game is great. So that's all the game is, right? It's because you can do things like this particular color green is like, do you know what particular shade of green Kermit is? Maybe that's the thing but maybe what you think is different. But what I love about Hues and Cues is what a trend that goes around on TikTok is that you can play what I like to call, you can disregard the rule book completely in terms of that 1-word, 2-word rule, and you can do subjective Hues and Cues. So, which is that instead of just saying 1 word, you have to explain it. So, without saying colors, like the feeling of happiness that you get when your wife gives you a kiss on the cheek. Like, what is that, right? And people have to try and guess that. Like, there's so
that is awesome.
So many different variations you can play.
So that is pretty much what happened on the day. We had 5 groups of players borrow Who's and Coos, and Nee just explained that elevator pitch, and off they went. Off they went and just played that game that day. That was what the day was like.
Yeah, it was. One of the best things. So if you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@BGGateway, we actually have an after movie that I edited together. Just a quick 2.5-3 minute, just like little montage video. Shows you the room, the people, the games that we played. Tried to make it nice and quick and snappy for you so you get an idea of what the game day was like. And we actually, we did a calculation of we think we counted close to 125 games in general just being played throughout the day, different games being played throughout all the different tables. There was a lot of card games being played. Most of I think literally 75% of our game library got played on that day. There was a lot of stuff that got played. So yeah, look, Damien, thank you for thanking the volunteers because you're right. Without them, we literally
involuntary volunteers.
We had a few of our close friends who were literally there, like Stu and Josh, for example, they're super early, and we just said, guys, we know you want to play some particular things, but if you get a chance, can you just try and invite people? And they did, and it was great. Josh, I love Josh because he also got his he got Terraforming Mars to the thing, which he was really keen to get. I'm get it out there, and he did. But
he also taught a 6-player game of Smash Up as well that went for way too long. But they
played it, and
High Society was a huge hit that day. My brother loved High Society. So,
I saw Cockroach Poker getting played a lot. I actually got to sit down and play Crokinole, which was great.
Yeah, the thing is, I looked at our Crokinole boards quite a few times at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and I'm like, maybe I should just put that in my car, just make the pack up a bit easier. And then someone would immediately sit down and play it. And I was like, what's going on?
People loved it.
Basically, my Crokinole boards now, it got played that much, I can't just re-wax it. I actually have to sand the whole thing back and reseal it because the top layer is gone now.
Oh, really?
So many people have played it.
That's great. I think that not great for your board.
Oh, that's fine. It's just part and parcel of owning.
Might have to get you to look at my board.
Piece of wood. But it was. Hey, it's getting used. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, guys. So we're gonna start to wrap this one up here. So I'm cutting into a part right now because I said we were going to talk about this game, but we didn't talk about it. And so I've sliced it in towards the end of this podcast. We did. I need people to understand that editor Neeber is going to be making some cuts right now, but we are going to be talking now about
just cuts Ralph out.
I just put the Mike Wazowski B3GD. We said we were going to talk about it, so let's actually talk about it. We're going to talk about Black Rose Wars. And so Ralph, this is one of the new games that's made it into the Kickstarter shores. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, I think it's the longest I've ever waited for a Kickstarter.
How long?
It's 2.5 years.
Rookie numbers.
Rookie numbers. What's the longest you've ever waited for a
ISS
Kickstarter?
Vanguard hit the 3-year mark.
And you sold it within 2 weeks.
Sold it within 2 weeks.
I am currently.
So
well, you
sick
got
of it.
second wave, though, didn't you? You're in second wave, right? So I'm currently still waiting on Legend Academy. So that's that one I
don't think that one's coming, mate.
Really?
I hate to break that to you.
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm not convinced on that one.
We'll see. We'll see how.
I almost jumped in.
All right, so Black Rose Wars.
Let's talk about Black Rose Wars.
So this is Black Rose Wars Rebirth. Okay, so Black Rose Wars came out many years ago. Rebirth is the second iteration of that. So there are quite a few changes to it. But essentially, what the game is every player plays a mage, and it's first to 30 points, or at the end of that round, that mage is the winner, and you're just trying to blast each other. And what you do to kill each other, you're going to plan spells. There's going to be 6 different schools of magic or 6 different decks of cards. And you're going to get to select cards that you want to add to your deck and plan cards that you want to play out. There's spells that you cast or traps that you lay or protection spells in case someone wants to kill you. And you just try and kill the other mages. Once they die or you die, you go back and you respawn, and the game just keeps going until someone gets to 30 points. That's really dumbed down version of the game, right?
It's kind of got that Res Arcana feel in the sense of that you have a limited deck that you. I say that. Sorry, that's the wrong.
No,
way.
you're constantly adding to your deck.
Yeah. But you are constantly adding to it. But you do start with a very small deck. You're trying to upgrade the spells that you have to have the more powerful versions. You are also going to different schools of magic and adding stuff. There's a lot of variability in this game because you can choose massive amounts of character mages that you want to play. The schools of magic that you can get more cards from can get randomized. So there's not just 6 in.
Every mage is different. And there's so many mages in this game.
And there's so much stuff going on. And so Ralph and I played a 2-player game of this with a computer player.
Yeah, so the computer player is called the Avatar, and the Avatar, there's many different avatars. They all behave differently, and you can add them to a game to be an added player that could potentially win the match as well.
Yeah, and so we played that. And look, I really enjoyed it. But my main criticism was, oh man, I actually do think this would be much better at 4. And then you guys played a 5-player game of it, and how was it?
It was really good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the 5-player game. So, also, when you cast a spell in the game, there's something called an instability cube, or you cause instability when you cast magic in the room, and the room, once it hits a certain quota, gets rebuilt, and you dish out victory points to people that get first or second amount of instability in that room. And then each room has a power effect, like an ability. But when it flips, after there's so much instability caused and the room is rebuilt, it gets stronger and different at times as well.
Those abilities could be like, hey, get 1 gold, cause 1 extra damage.
No, we found a room that just causes everyone to lose a point.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when he says instability, to activate that room's ability, literally all you do is cast a spell in that room. And then once you cast a spell, you can use the room's
spell.
spell.
Walk in. You just walk in.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
There are some spells that can do that, but most of the time you just walk in,
My memory of the game was Damien doesn't get it. Somehow Damien's winning. Oh, Damien starts to get it. Now he's really winning.
Now Damien lost.
Hold on. Everyone else realizes that Damien gets it. Damien's 10 points in the lead in a game to 30. Someone turns around and says, we really need to bring Damien back. Damien gets handed these 2 hexes, and that crippled the game.
Oh, yeah. So there is a school of magic where you can hex a mage, and it's practically a permanent disability or debuff.
So the first hex I got was every time I respawn, I take 2 hits from basically the Black Rose entity. The Black Rose entity, which is this constant entity.
It's a living entity in the game.
That's in the game. And the cool thing about the Black Rose entity, just quickly, is that because it can do damage and because it can influence rooms, it can take points away from other players, and that can be really crippling. Where only 3 of the 5 players at the table will get points, whether it be for killing a mage or controlling a room. If a Black Rose entity happens to tie one of those players, like if you can't like the points are rounded down. So if you can't evenly half the points, or if the points end up 0 because the Black Rose entity took some points away from you, you don't get anything.
Yeah.
And it can be really brutal. So anyway, I'm starting every round on 8 health instead of my usual 10. And the only way I can get rid of this hex is by visiting one of 2 rooms that are nowhere near my starting point.
They're on the opposite side of the board.
Twice.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's one. And then on top of that, a round later, our friend Anthony, who's sitting to my left, he just laughs when he says, "You got to love this hex." Hands me another hex.
To slow your movement speed or something?
No,
Yeah,
even
there is
better.
one like that,
Even
though.
better. He says, basically, the only way I can get rid of this hex is by getting killed and respawning again. And I had to do that twice. So I had to, the thing I was avoiding to do, I then had to do. And the reason why we had to do it which basically tied into his build strategy.
Yeah.
He was spawning these mummies.
The
and
pharaohs, yeah.
The pharaohs.
the pharaoh that he's...
These were powerful. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, and so the way these work, and this is just one of the many summons in the game.
And they're all each individual pieces of plastic, which came in the box.
Wild the amount of content in this box.
It's very nice.
Is that the pharaoh's attack strength is based on the number of players that have hexes. So it was in his favor to just hand out hexes to everyone.
Yeah.
He just happened to find the right ones for me. And that honestly, I mean, I know on the mic it might sound like I'm a bit dirty about it. I'm really not. Like, I thought it was a brilliant play.
I just want to say
I loved the game, though.
I did a really cool play with the pharaohs, and I wasn't even playing the pharaoh cards to do it. It was basically someone killed my evocation, the summon I had on the map. And then I had a trap that was laid out saying when your summon dies, respawn another summon that's on the map. So I could summon a pharaoh that could punch for 5 and then activate it in the same turn. And then I did that, but I hit, I think, Anthony, that triggered his trap. So like there was quite a few moments in our game where we kept triggering a protection spell of some kind. We kept having to interrupt each other's moves. There was a moment where Damien cast a spell on me that moved me to a room that triggered someone else's trap.
That's what we missed in the 2-player game. Because in a 2-player game, there's only us 2 laying traps for each other. The actual... The
avatar does that too.
The one that we played rarely had any board interaction,
really.
and that's what I want to make, because you explained the game. It's like it's a mage battle, and we're going to be battling each other for points, and it didn't really feel like a battle because it felt like that we were just kind of running around the place.
The 5-player version, granted 5 players, a lot of people will say 5 players isn't ideal. They'll say 4 players is the ideal player count for this game. I personally didn't have an issue, and I feel like it'll only get faster as we play it more.
Yeah.
What was really cool about it is I had a spell and I could kill potentially one of 3 people, and I had a strategic decision as to who do I kill in that moment. That didn't happen in a 2-player game. No. So it turned into more of a strategy game at a higher player count.
And for those listening, by strategy, he just meant it was either Damien or not Damien.
Well, I chose not Damien,
and once.
But that play, I won the game, but it may have been on that because that caused me to tie on trophies. Yeah. And get some of those points.
Yeah, I think there was a point in the game where we all realized the value of defensive spells and traps and such. And
that was scary.
And that's when it's like everyone's going, yeah, I'm going to play this, and I'm just going to move over here, and then I'm going to prepare a trap. And we just went, well, I'm not going near you. But the thing is, the traps can trigger just by you moving into a room
of a specific color.
But what I liked about it as well is you pick if you want to trigger your trap or not. You don't have to.
That's right, yeah.
I do love that because like someone could move into a green room and everyone looks at you like, huh? And you go,
oh, that's what happened. Hamish moved 2 rooms to attack me. And then Anthony said to Hamish, I need you to be oddly specific as to which room you walk through.
But the thing is great. What could be great as well, that like, if Ralph moved into a green room, I could go, nah. And then Damien goes, well, I'm just going to walk into this green room. Sorry, you just stroked my trap.
Yeah, that's right.
What? No,
because it might serve you better to hit the other person.
Right.
Yeah. Like, it's a super silly game that has a lot going on.
Yep.
And I was worried that some of the fun would be lost because I've played games before that, heaps of plastic and stuff like that, and they are intended to be silly, but they just turn out to be a chore, or turn out to be just, hey, it looks really pretty, isn't it great?
Yeah.
The only other game that I can think of that I've played and I've enjoyed as well is Cthulhu Death May Die, and it's of that similar ilk where you've got minis on a map sort of thing, and it's just about being silly and rolling
that's all
dice.
that's a team-based game.
It is, yeah. So that one's more co-op.
Yeah.
But I really liked Black Rose Wars. There's a ton of content in there.
So much. So I've got. I think you only play with 6 schools of Magic. I think I've got 11 schools. So you can. Actually, I've got more. I've got 15. So you can just pick. What I did when we played it, because I'd had them all out. I'm like, you take your pick. Which school do you want to play with? Everyone just chose one. And then we put them all on the table and we started our game.
Yeah.
I found that this was that game because it has a lot of pieces of plastic. So I had a moment where I'm like, let's learn it. I'm like, sweet, let's learn it. And then I did have a moment 15 minutes in where I'm like, I don't know if I get it. And I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it. And then half an hour I went, oh, no, I get this. But I'm not really enjoying it at this player count. I think this would be so much better at a higher player count where we're all interacting with each other.
Yeah.
Like, even if the downtime is a little bit more, but the fact of, like, the whole board... It's only a relatively small board. It's like it's a hex which is like 3 wide, a 3 wide hexagon sort of thing. So
it does need a bit of space because everyone's like mage mat where you program your 4 spells in. That is quite big, and everyone's got one.
The board would fit nearly on the width of this table.
And then you need a second table to store all the boxes.
Absolutely,
it needs a better storage system.
I came out at the end of it going, oh no, I really want to play that again, but with more players. I think that's
at 5 players, game. I think it took us 4 hours or so
with a teach and I'll say,
with a Rocky as anything teach.
I don't think that's your fault.
Because the game didn't have a structure for me to teach it. To be honest,
at 2 players, we played it at 90 minutes. With two of us, it took us 90 minutes. So I think you could get a 4 or 5 player game to under 2.5.
Because I picked up the rulebook at one point, and it didn't present as a rulebook that seemed familiar to me. Like, I found it really hard to find information.
It does go through, like, the 5 phases of the game in order in the rulebook. But, yeah, you're right. It feels weird.
And then on top of that, like the production quality of the game is amazing. However, it isn't perfect.
No.
Like, I found Italian words on cards because it is traditionally an Italian
game. It's directly translated.
And it's kind of funny. Well, I will say on the side, I can read a little bit of Italian, and I didn't even realize it was Italian when I read it the first time. My brain just went, that's English, and then it wasn't until I read it again, I got, no, that part's Italian.
Yeah,
actually.
I was really surprised because they did work really hard to do that, because that was a main complaint of the first iteration of the game.
And I will say, just with this though, like this is one of those games that I think screams for community-made player aid, and I'm sure one will come.
Oh, I'm gonna make it.
And I think if this game just came with like probably a 2-sided A4 player aid, you print off a couple of those, hand them out to players, you'd be up and running in 20 minutes.
Yeah. It's odd. It does have a reference sheet for each player.
Yeah.
It is a lot of text.
Yeah.
Not every symbol is there, despite there being a lot of symbols there. So that's quite confusing.
And when you gave it to me, I was very similar. I was like, I kind of get what this is telling me, but there are so many symbols, and they're also very small. Like, it's a lot of information jam-packed into a very small amount of space.
And you don't need to know all of them.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
And that was the thing that... And I think that's actually what helped me a little bit at the beginning of the game, was because I completely smooth-brained into the game.
Same.
I just went, I don't care about these symbols until I need to care about them, and that's it.
Which was pretty much from the get-go.
Basically, yeah.
But I tell you what, the strategy, like during our game, I think I was the only player for most of the game to get a Forgotten Spell, which is a really powerful spell that you only cast once. And I put it in my quick slot so I can cast it at any time on my turn. It was just deal 4 damage to everyone. Doesn't matter where they are, as long as they're not in their cell. Just deal 4 damage to everyone. I was just waiting for the right time to maximize the points off this card. Never happened. No. I was waiting for that opportune moment, and it just didn't come my way.
Wasn't going to happen to me.
People messed with my plans. Yeah, so I had a fantastic time playing that. I played the game solo twice. I played 1-2 player with Nee, and I was on the cusp of maybe I get rid of it, to be honest. But after that 5-player game, I'm like, yeah, I really want to play that again.
I want to ask you then, playing it solo, and I don't mind playing bigger games solo.
Same.
But I have, there's definitely a threshold. There's definitely a point where I go, it's not worth the rub. Like, a really good example, I'm happy to sit for 2 hours and build an Arkham deck for a game of Arkham that I'm not going to play for like a week.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. I will set up Voidfall, which is a game I will talk about later in a future episode.
Absolutely.
I was absolutely enamored with the game. It'll take me 40 minutes to set that up, but I'm okay with that because the game is that good.
Mm-hmm.
Is Black Rose Wars one of those games where it's worth the setup for the solo experience?
So I've only done it with one avatar.
Yep.
So it's just me versus the one other. You can set it up with as many as you'd like, up to 6.
Yeah.
I watched 10 minutes of some guy on YouTube play with 5 others. In my experience, no, it's not. Because it is simple to manage. All it is flip one card and you follow basically a flow chart as to how that mage acts. Okay, so if you had like 3 other avatars, you just work out which one it targets, you do its special effects, and it might even just say, okay, this has a trap spell, so if it hits it, I flip the card and I see what the trap was. Like, that sort of stuff. It's not fun. You know?
That just sounds like admin.
It's just admin.
Follow the steps, make a new board state, now figure out what your optimal move is, now create a new board state, do a rinse and repeat. And that sounds like, people listening to that could say, well, that sounds like every single board game. It's like, yes, but when part of a board game is actually watching my players make interesting decisions and try to figure out what's going on, whereas
the avatars
when you're playing against the avatars, when we played one, it's just flip a card, and this is what it's now doing. It's going here, attacking this, doing this spell. All right, moving on. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to what they're actually doing.
But I will say the avatar, I can see adding something if we were to play a 3-player game. We could add the 4th in.
Yeah.
Because that's really simple to manage, and we still benefit from killing, and he can still kill us.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
I mean, I've only played it the once, and it was at the higher player count, and obviously the group matters. Like, we had a really good group there, and so we had a great time.
Yeah.
But so far, based on your experiences as well, and mine combined, it sounds like it's a sort of game that's really a 3-player plus game.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair because it's all about interaction.
Well, if you ask me to play it again at 2 players, I'd kind of be like, okay, but I'd much rather play it with like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So the way we played the game is there's a phase called the study phase where out of the 6 schools of magic, you select 4 cards to grab. You can get them all from one school if you like, and then you keep 2 of them, and then you plan your spells out, okay? And you also draw from your deck a little bit. So there's a lot of options there, okay? You can play the game how you like in a way. However, there is another variant of it where you can construct a 36-card deck.
Ooh, okay.
That would be cool. Oh, so you construct your wizard beforehand.
Yes.
I would be down.
You can even spend mage points to construct your own mage. You can create your custom mage as well.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. And you can also put in selective spells. Your custom mage spells. You can also put specific ones there.
Our eyebrows can only go so high, Mr. Ralph, at the moment.
There is also a tournament mode as well where you play a couple of rounds, like a couple of games of it, sort of thing. The variability of this game is insane.
Oh, yeah.
I quite liked the study phase, how we played it, because it was kind of like, okay, I'm getting a lot of hexes assigned to me. How do I mitigate this?
Yeah.
Like it's sort of, you're learning the game on the fly. Like, it just felt a lot of fun, and the joy of discovering that.
Because there is one more element which we haven't explained is you can get objectives throughout the game.
Yeah.
And that is just another way to get points. I found we didn't get heaps of points from the objectives.
Oh, Hamish solved 7 or 8 of them.
Hamish did a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But still, it's some of the objectives will then force you to change your playstyle and may even force you to change which school of magic you want to go down.
I ignored mine for half the game.
Same. I just ignored them.
And I won the game. Like, that was the crazy thing. The game was super swingy, right? Like, we had someone in the lead by 6 or 7 points, and then you went back, someone else was in the lead. I didn't come into the lead till right at the end of the match.
I was smashing it, and then I had people stealing my points.
Yeah, this is the
and then putting me back in my box.
You can't go into the lead. You sit back in second.
Yeah, you can't have people killing you.
Sprint out at the end.
And then we had Ralph's brother, who was dead last, complaining about how he was going to finish dead last. And then he was in the lead towards the end. He almost walked away with it. And it was crazy, but look, great game.
We had a great time. At 5, it was... Yeah, I'm definitely keeping it. I think for me, this is one of those big game day type things. I will bring it to a game day if we have people that kind of already knew how to play or watched a video beforehand and were happy to play that all night.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's such a huge game. Like, it was really good.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's. That was Black Rose Wars, not to be confused with
Rebirth. Which the word rebirth sounds gross.
Well, that's what it is. Anyway, that was Black Rose Wars Rebirth.
Fantastic game. Loved every second of it.
Before we get going, however, we do want to, so as we said, we do have B3GD version 2 coming later in the year, but we do want to we had been talking about a particular piece of content that we were trying to start last year, which we talked about, and this year we are going to do it. In fact, we've already recorded it, and we are looking forward to releasing it after this episode. Ralph, would you like to explain to everyone what that piece of content is?
Yeah, so this year we're going to do quite a few things that are different. The main one that we're going to do is do a couple of deep dive episodes.
What is a deep dive episode specifically for them? Like if they don't understand what that is.
It's essentially, we're going to focus in on one game for that entire episode, and we're going to go deep into that game. We're going to talk strategies. We're going to tell you exactly what that game is. We're going to show our hands in case you ever play that game with us.
Yep, some of the things we like to do.
I'm quite nervous about that one. I'm never winning those games ever again.
That's right. So, and we have been talking about it, and so we are going to be doing a deep dive into Blood on the Clock Tower. Now, Blood on the Clock Tower is such a massive game, and with the different scripts of characters that you can play, we've decided that we're going to break this series up into multiple parts. So we are actually going to break down the individual scripts into different episodes.
So the first one we're doing is the introductory version of this game, and that is the Trouble Brewing script. So if you've never played it before, or if you have, I'm sure you've played a lot of Trouble Brewing if you have played this game before. It's the entry point into Blood on the Clock Tower.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive in.
Fantastic. And we are also trying to organize a special piece of content for Blood on the Clock Tower, but we'll talk about that more once we have an idea of if it's confirmed or not and what we can...
Sounds great.
So there's a couple of things there. We also are going to be looking to do a few more Let's Plays this year. So Damien and I, we have actually been talking about one that we're probably going to give a little bit of a teaser for next week's episode that I think we're going to record. And then also on top of that, we have a couple more segments planned this year. One that we are very excited to announce that we are going to be doing a couple of is we are introducing a new segment called the Board Game Debates. We don't know the official title of it yet, but essentially in those special episodes, we are going to spend one episode where we're going to have a topic.
I thought we agreed on a title. We were going to call it Damien Wins.
Damien Wins.
It. Yeah.
Objection, Your Honour, for battering the witness or whatever. But the whole idea is that we are going to have two of us we are going to come up with a debate topic, and then two of them are going to take a side in the debate, and then we are going to assign a winner from audience participation, and maybe we'll give a grade score. Everyone gets a chance to be the judge. Maybe biases will come out. Maybe they won't. Who knows what it is. We also have our first T-shirts as well. I don't know if you watch this. If you watch it on YouTube, we actually have our own T-shirts. We're actually quite happy. Damien, where's your... Oh,
it's at home.
He didn't bring it tonight. Oh. So we're super excited. This has been... Look, we've had a big break, but it's time to get back into it. I'm
excited with this new fresh format. We're kind of just going to, bring the silliness to it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are trying to keep the podcast going once every week. It may turn into once a fortnight, though, because we have been talking about if we do it once a fortnight, we can try and add in this extra content in the off week. So we'll keep you informed about what the official schedule is as we decide it as we go through this year. But look, until episode 52, this is season 3. We're back into it. I was Neeber. That's Damien. That's Ralph. We're the Board Game Gateway crew. We'll see you next week. Yeah.